most people have already submitted this form. But if you haven't, please turn in your form to Farm to School, the Farm to School inbox. Each team lead will be reviewing about 10 proposals. You will want to submit your scores and comments using PartnerWeb before your team meeting, and then you will have to schedule your team meeting during that second phase of the review period and participate in that team review meeting. You will have to submit an activity checklist on behalf of your team, and then you'll serve as a point of contact for your assigned team. So, if we, the Farm to School grant team, have any questions, we typically will reach out to the team lead first in terms of kind of collecting that information. And then we will be sending out a reviewer feedback survey at the end of the review period. It'll probably go out about the end of February or so. So just so we can make sure we uncover any hiccups in the review process or missing information or additional support or technical assistance that you all need, we would love for you all to complete that survey. So let's deep dive into all of those responsibilities that you all will have. So the first thing is the conflict of interest form, which everyone has received. This was initially sent out back in December. Essentially, we want all of our reviewers, our team leads, to be able to review applications in an objective manner. So you should be reporting to us if you have any financial conflicts of interest. Have you invested in any of the organizations that you are reviewing an application for? If you have any relationships with any of the organizations that are applying or would benefit from the grant. So maybe you used to work there, maybe you currently sit on their board. All of these things would present a conflict of interest. So if there are any conflicts of interest that you haven't reported to us, that now after kind of hearing this information, you're like, maybe I should let them know, go ahead and send an email to the Farm to School inbox, just flagging it for us. And if you haven't submitted your conflict of interest form, go ahead and sign it and shoot it over to us. So how can you be preparing for the review? So one of the key things that you can do now after this presentation is just take a look at the request for application, which I had sent out, I believe, earlier this week on Tuesday. Again, it's a pretty long document, so we don't expect you to read it from front to back, but just get familiar with the way that the RFA is set out. Take a look at the table of contents and kind of understand where the different pieces are. Definitely take a look at the specific grant type that you are going to be reviewing and really understand kind of the purpose and intent behind that grant type and what we're looking to achieve in terms of funding for that grant type. It'll really serve you well as you read your applications and are trying to determine whether or not the proposal is a good one. The next thing you should do is access PartnerWeb to get familiar with the system. At this point, we are still in the process of uploading everyone's information into the PartnerWeb system, but we should have that done by the end of this week. You will receive an email that contains your username and your password, so you will be able to log into the PartnerWeb platform once you get that email. You'll also want to familiarize yourself with the reference materials that I sent over early today with the reminder. So that would be the score sheet, the point allocation guidance, and the activity checklist. So both the score sheet and the point allocation guidance are going to be really key documents for you as you read and score your assigned applications. So we'll go ahead and walk through those documents a little bit right now. So the score sheet is unique to each grant type. So yes, there are 4 different score sheets. You should look at the score sheet for which you have been assigned to, the grant type you've been assigned to. The score sheet is laid out in a way that it has a category, so it breaks down the proposal into specific sections, and it has key bullets for things that should be included in that section and that you should be looking for. To the right, you'll see that there's a box with a point system. So the points are kind of aligned to certain names, so excellent, very good, good, fair. So you can use that as a guidance as you're reading that particular section in your proposal to determine how you want to assign your points. And yes, you can assign a point that doesn't exactly equal excellent. If it falls between very good and excellent, you can assign an 18 for that section, so on and so forth. The point allocation guidance document. So this really is to provide a tool first to maintain scoring consistency. So that's the point of both the point allocation guidance document and the scoring sheet. We want that across teams that everyone is evaluating each of the proposals in the same way so that we can be fairly making decisions about what proposals are excellent and which are not. So the other really great thing about the point allocation guidance specifically is that it gives a language that everyone can use within and across teams to describe how they felt about their proposal, so that everyone is on the same page when someone says that they thought an application was good or they thought a section of an application was very good. So as you can see on the screen, it kind of provides specific descriptors as to what each of these ratings mean. So again, you want to keep your scoring sheet and your point allocation guidance document close to you, right on hand while you're reading your proposals. We suggest that you fill out the scoring sheet as you're reading your proposal. The activity checklist. So this is a goodie that is specifically for team leads. So you all are submitting an activity checklist for each of your proposals on behalf of your team. So the activity checklist, to be clear, it does not impact selections. There are no points associated with the activity checklist. The activity checklist is really a way for USDA to understand grantee needs in terms of when they're applying for funds. So again, this is really important that you as the team lead complete this checklist for each of your proposals. You will be responsible for submitting this via PartnerWeb. So now we're going to deep dive back into the review period. So as you recall, I said the review period is from January 23rd to the 17th. The review period is broken into 2 phases. The first phase is the independent review, and so that period is from January 23rd to February 3rd, the first 2 weeks. So during that time, reviewers should be independently reading each of their assigned applications using the scoring sheet and the allocation guidance documents that we just discussed. You may be wondering, I don't have my applications. When do I get them? How do I get them? So applications are going to be distributed via Watchdocs. So you will receive an email from Watchdocs with a link and a password, and that's how you will be able to download your applications. We are looking to send out this link to you all by Monday early in the day. This is really, 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 really important. We ask that you all take a look at your applications, to scan them. Just take a look at them, including the supporting documents, for conflicts of interest. So sometimes something may not have dawned on you, or you forgot about an organization, or you'll just see that by looking at the actual applications whether or not you have a conflict of interest. And you'll want to let us know ASAP so that we can swap out that application. We really want to prevent people from reading applications that are going to get swapped out of their team. So we want folks to take a look at the applications by January 24th, end of day, and just let us know if you have any conflicts of interest so we can swap out that app. The other thing is to just take a look for completeness as well. We've already done a check for this to make sure all the different components of the application is there, but there are almost 300 applications, so it's always great to have another pair of eyes. So if you see anything funky, it seems like the project narrative is missing or there's no budget, flag that for Farm to School and we can take a deeper look at that. So you want to be sure that you're reading all sections of the application, the narrative, the budget narrative, and all supporting documents during the independent review. It's called independent for a reason, so you are reading these applications on your own. You are not discussing them with your team members at this time. It is very critical that you complete your independent review of your applications before your team meeting. So we're really asking that folks finish reading all their applications, scoring them, providing comments, uploading it into PartnerWeb by the end of the independent review period. So a little bit more information about scoring applications. So we are asking that you provide both a numeric score and written feedback for each of your applications and for each category in that application. We are asking that you record your comments in the form of strengths and weaknesses. You really want to make sure that your score accurately reflects your evaluation of the proposal. So again, we really encourage you to use that point allocation document and that scoring sheet. And you really want to make sure that if you're giving a score, an excellent score, that you have lots of excellent comments to offer, that you don't also have 5 weaknesses. Because if you also have 5 weaknesses, maybe you shouldn't be scoring that section as excellent. And again, you'll be submitting your comments and your scores using PartnerWeb. So after the independent review period, you then move into the team review period. The team review period is from February 6th to February 17th. During this time, you as a team lead will be facilitating group discussions about your scored applications. And I just want to kind of set it up from the outset. What is the purpose of the team review? You've already submitted your scores. Why are you getting together with team members to talk about it? And the team discussions are really a time and a place for you to get a gut check about the scores and comments that you've given to a particular proposal. So for example, it's really a way that, maybe you graded a particular application more harshly than you should have when you listened to the comments of 2 of your other teammates who gave it a much better score. And that could naturally happen just by maybe it was the last application in your pile. So as you're going through, you're getting a little bit more critical of the applications that are crossing your desk. So it's really just a way to get a gut check about if you've kind of been fair in the way that you've scored each of your applications. You are not required to change your scores after your team discussion. So the team call will be set up by the team lead. We are advising you as a team lead to probably shoot out an email today or Monday to start to figure out a time that would work for you and your 2 team members to talk during that team review period, so from February 6th to 17th. You could decide to do 1 mega call, I've been calling it, and perhaps put 3 hours on the calendar to discuss all your applications, or maybe you want to do multiple calls. Whatever works best for you and your team members, feel free to do so. You will be joined by a program representative, so myself or one of the grant officers will join the first 15 minutes of your call, and we'll just kind of talk about the process that you all will be going through for your team call. The last thing as a team lead, once you've figured out those times that you and your team members are going to meet virtually to talk about the proposals, please submit those times to the Google spreadsheet that I have here on this slide. I will be sending out the link via email. I know this is really hard to see and probably not clickable, but we want to know when your team call is so that we can make sure to staff the beginning of that call. So during your team call, you will be discussing each of your proposal. Each person should be coming prepared to discuss the score along with the strengths and weaknesses of each application. Based on that discussion, as I mentioned, you may or may not choose to adjust your individual scores. If you do adjust your individual scores, you will have to update your scores and your feedback in Partner Web. Also, as a team lead, you will be submitting those activity checklists on behalf of your team through Partner Web. So you can complete the activity checklist during the independent review period or during the team review period whenever you get the time to do it. Just make sure to do it before the end of the review period. And as I mentioned, this is a responsibility of the team lead. So facilitating your team review meeting. What does it kind of look like? How should you set it up? So one of the ways you can think about setting up or structuring your call is to allocate about 10 minutes initially to discuss each application, kind of do a round robin. Everyone says there's the score and strengths and weaknesses of the application. If everybody's kind of trending in a similar place about an application, you can move on. But you're going to want to really take some time to discuss the applications that have a wide variance in scores. So you'll particularly want to talk about the applications a bit more in depth when they have 10 points or more difference among the scores. And what you'll want to do is you'll want to go through those particular applications section by section among your team members to really pinpoint, the differences in the scoring among team members. You can consider encouraging your team members to update their scores and feedback in Partner Web right during that meeting. So tell them to be at their laptops and logged into Partner Web so that it's kind of while you're going through it, if anything changes, they can just make that change as you all are discussing the proposal. So as I've been alluding to all throughout this presentation, Partner Web is the platform that we will be using to collect your scores and your feedback. It's an online SharePoint site that's managed by USDA. As I mentioned, at this time, we are setting everyone up with a Partner Web account. You will receive an email that contains your username and password. You should have that by Monday. And so we wanted to make sure that you all kind of have a sense of how to navigate and use Partner Web, so we're going to do a walkthrough of the system. So I'm going to pass it over to Matt, who's going to lead this portion of the webinar for us.
Thank you, Maika. Okay, we're going to spend a little bit of time in Partner Web and looking at the list of lead reviewers to see a lot of similar names. So thank you so much for reviewing grants again this year. So this will be a bit of an overview for some of you, but some folks who are new to the review, this will give us a good opportunity to give you the basics of the program. So Partner Web, let me share my screen so everybody can see it. It's going a little bit slow. And Maika, let me know when it comes up for you.
You got it. It's slow. Up. It's there.
It's up. Okay.
Yep.
So for folks that already have a Partner Web account, we've already started to add the Farm to School review page to your account. So for many folks, you can go in and look at this site already. And for folks that don't have a Partner Web account, we are setting those up. And you should get an email today or tomorrow at the latest. So you log into the system, and this is the home screen. This is a basic overview and some basic information about the Farm to School grant review process. Our contact information, phone number and email, gives you a description of what you can find on here, the application assignments, team numbers, and score sheets. Down here there's some key resources. We have links to their RFA, links to our website. You can review these slides or the presentations. Also with the key, above that we have the key dates. So this being the splash screen is just a good place as a reference to go back to. And as lead reviewers, if you have any suggestions about how we can improve this, just let us know when the grant review period's over, because this is hopefully a helpful resource for you. So you come in here, you get logged in. The first thing you want to do is look for your team assignments. You can navigate this site along the left-hand side, or you can navigate it across the top. The information or the links essentially do the same thing. So you're going to come in here and you'll want to click on your assignment up here on the top. So you'll click on here. It's pretty straightforward. First here, it'll list your panelist ID, which is your first name and the first letter of your last name. So it'll show you what team you're assigned to here. So you'll see here Abby B is assigned to Team 1. And then you can come over to the right and you'll see we're still uploading these right now, so it's a little bit thin, but you get the idea here. We have listed 4 teams. This will eventually have 30 teams. And you'll come in here and you'll click on whatever your team it is. Let's say you're on Team 2. You'll click on there and see here it'll have a list of the type of grants you're reviewing, and they will all be the same. Again, this is test data. And it'll have their grant ID and the application name. And so from here you would have all the basic information. You know your panelist ID, you know your team number, you know if you're a lead or not, you should already know that. But then you'll also know your team assignments. Okay, so you know your team assignments. You also received them in WatchDocs. You've reviewed your grants. You've taken notes perhaps in the paper versions of the score sheets. You've taken notes and you're ready to submit your scores in the system. So we are going to do a sample application here so you can get a sense of how the system works. So you would come up here and click on whatever type of grant you want to review. So we're going to review a planning grant. So we click on the Planning Score Sheets 2017. We also have some resources here for you. The guidelines that Maika reviewed, a printable copy of the score sheet. So that's a paper version. You go in there and download it. It's Word, so you can type in it or write on it, whatever works for you, and then the activity checklist. And so you've got your scores and you're ready to go. You come over here to the right, and there in big blue, it's a hyperlink, says Add a Score Sheet. So you would click on this, and here it is. This is essentially an online version of the paper score sheet. So you would work through this, filling in the information. Abby, we are going to use you as an example. And then you have an ID. Oh, that's duplicative. It's being updated. And then the team number. You put your application ID. What's the application you're reviewing? Click it on in here. Application name. Example. And there's a lot, so I'm going to move through this relatively quickly. But whenever there's a red asterisk, it means it's required. So you need to put something in here. For example, the farm to school experience. You go through, you read it, you read the criteria here, and you think it's a very good application. So you put in just a little bit better than very good. So you want 22 points, and then you would have examples to justify your score. So you would add those down here in the strengths and weaknesses. And you would do this for each section of the application. So I'm going to go through and just do it real quickly. So we're scoring so you score the project design and management, you score the staffing, you put your staffing strengths and weaknesses in to justify your score. Same thing for evaluation plans, sustainability, and so forth. So when you get close down to the bottom and you've completed all the sections, then you would, if you're finished, you can click yes there. Typically people keep that unchecked until after they have their team meeting because they may want to make updates. It doesn't do anything. It's just an indication. So you can still always edit the program edit your review whether you click it yes or no. It's also here down for the team leads, there's a way to track if a checklist was done for it. So then you would hit OK, and it brings you back to the splash screen. But now you would see that under My Score Sheets on this screen, there is the application that you just submitted. Those application received a 71, planning grant example, P001, finished, no, edit. So this is where you can come back and you can always edit the score sheets that you just did. So when you work through the 10 applications or so, you will see them all lined up here, and you'll be able to review and open up your applications. Okay, so you've done your score sheets. The other responsibility as a team leader is the checklist. So there's a similar setup for the checklists. You come up here to your Team Leaders tab. Only the team leaders will have access to this, so it is button down for the other reviewers. So you would come in here. Again, it's very similar. You have the list down here on the left that shows you, just as a reminder of what your applications you're reviewing. Over here, I did a sample checklist earlier, so it says my checklist, and there's an example down here. And then you can click on this Add a New Checklist. So you would add, and then here is an electronic version of the checklist that we've discussed. I'm not going to fill it out because we can come over here and look at the example. My checklist, you can open it up and then see it shows all the information that I clicked, and hit OK. You also, as a team lead, when you go to have your team meeting, you'll want to verify that the score sheets have been completed before your team meeting to ensure that everyone did their independent reviews. This Verify Score Sheets allows you to do that. If you're reviewing planning score sheets, you can click in here, and it'll have all the score sheets, the team number, the total score, and who did it listed by team. So it's a good way for you to go in there and confirm that the two other folks on your team did all of their applications prior to the team meeting. It's relatively, in my experience and experience of past reviewers, the system's relatively user-friendly. We're in our third year with the system, but we're always open to feedback. So get in there. I encourage you to get in there and click around. There's not much you can do to hurt the system. So get in there early and take a look. And if you have any questions, our contact information, reach out and we can walk you through the program. So that is PartnerWeb in a quick overview, and I'm going to pass the mic back over to Maika. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Matt. All right, so as Matt stops sharing his screen, the slides will come back. Okay. Now that we've gone through our PartnerWeb walkthrough, at this time I'm going to kick it over to Carla, who's going to go through some tips for success in terms of reviewing your applications.
Yes, thank you, Maika and Matt. This is Carla Garcia. Hi, everyone. I'm the grant officer at FNS. And we're just going to be sharing some tips for success. A lot of the stuff Maika's already covered, just kind of going through some different things here. So if you recall, Maika did point out the point allocation. There's a specific guidance sheet on how you should be scoring from excellent all the way to unresponsive. So we just need to make sure that you become familiar with that, right? And then it's also very helpful if you review the RFA itself and become familiar just the way that the points are spread out. So, for example, the budget section itself would be a max points of total of 10. So you want to become familiar with that so that when you're scoring within each section, you can kind of flag, or if you're actually just reviewing them, you can have an idea as to whether or not it's accurate. So, again, just remember that you're looking at numbers within the score range. So with the example of the budget, you want to make sure that it's within that score range. Obviously, if it's very poor, it would be anywhere from that 1 to 10 range as far as total points is concerned. But again, Farm to School has a sheet that you need to be referring to, and this is the example of it. There's also some additional information that you want to be paying attention to as you're reviewing the score sheets. Be sure your scores align with your written feedback. So In essence, what you're looking for is that that everything is jiving. So you don't want to have the story of a number, showing a perfect budget, but then you have a number of notes that are weaknesses that look to be, that may say the contrary. For example, you might say, the staffing does not appear to be adequate, and these are just examples. I'm certainly not telling you to ding them, but on these particular things, or if it's lacking information in the budget, you may want to just take a look at that and see, that there is written feedback for anything regarding the score. So that's we also ask that as an applicant, the previous applicants in the past and the ones that are going to be applying at this point and that you're going to be reviewing, typically what we do with them is we also provide the feedback from the strengths and weaknesses. So the information that you are looking at and that is in the reviewer's score sheets is going to, in essence, justify and substantiate the scores that we have to later go through when we are on the receiving end of things. So, again, the written feedback is essential. It's important. It's vital on each score sheet. You want to make sure it's justified and in each particular section. And I think we're very close to our time, so I'm trying to go through this a little faster than what I had, so I'm just going to move on to the next thing. Again, there's a huge emphasis on, at FNS that you make sure your written feedback is clear and concise. Specifically when we're talking about feedback, if you remember the format that Matt showed earlier, there's strengths and weaknesses. So for each section, when you go to the strengths and weaknesses, you're going to have to provide some sort of narrative form as to whether or not they did well in that section or not. And then, of course, you're going to allot that score to it. We do ask that if you're going to make a statement that, here it says it's okay to be critical, but make sure the feedback is constructive. So you just need to make sure you substantiate it. So if you're saying, for example, they don't say, they're missing some information regarding staff, you might want to get a little bit more detail and actually identify. For me, it's always very helpful if you include page numbers. It also makes the process of the review itself, when you guys meet back up with your reviewers, go a lot faster. So if you ask them to include a page number, they can reference that so that you know exactly what they looked at or what information was lacking. The examples here, it says provide well-written and specific justification of the scores. So, for example, they have a strength. The school district has strong community partners and is ready to help implement the project. So these are, examples of what a well-written justification of a score would look like. And then, of course, we have an example for the weakness, again, clear and concise. Written feedback that would be less than ideal. Well, here we have the example of what not to do. So, obviously if there's no comments provided, that's not ideal. We absolutely require that information at FNS. It is what we are going to use to justify those scores. It's also, again, what we're going to use for the debriefing process itself. So, again, it becomes vital that that information is included. So, in the example here, it says simply listing activities without saying how they impact the score. If you were to look at this garden vegetables and classroom activities, we would have no idea what that is, or local carrots and potatoes. And, I always tell reviewers, even when you guys get together to discuss it, it is so much easier when the comments are concise for the reviewer and even for the conversations that you guys are going to have together to have the information here. It's very helpful, and it makes it go a lot faster, but, again, it's also required for FNS. So all the way around, it makes for a smooth process, and it is required. So it's one of the things that we ask you guys to keep an eye out as you're getting this information back to you and collecting it. Just to keep out a look, if you see a 60, but there's really nothing in weaknesses, and that's a red flag. I mean, we have to have documentation of some sort from the reviewer with a number of weaknesses for a score that might be low or a score that might be high. Again, you've got to be careful that there's not vague comments here or comments like the weakness seems like a waste of funds. Although we might feel that way, we have to be careful that we have constructive criticism back to the grantee so that they're able to take that later and maybe work on the project and maybe if you can pinpoint exactly what was so weak about the project itself, they can actually use that later to come back to FNS with a stronger proposal. Key steps for your successful review. Again, I think Maika covered a number of these things already. We want to make sure you contact the team members as soon as possible so that each of you guys were assigned a team. You need to contact them. It's critical that you get that date set up with your team so that you guys can get back together and review the applications. Again, it's required that previous to you guys doing that, you need to make sure everybody's already reviewed it. That way you have someone, actual things to discuss. You're going to find that it goes a lot smoother, and again, that is a requirement. Once you receive your partner web username, which is what Matt was covering earlier, and the password, make sure you can log in successfully. You need to make sure that you contact us immediately if you're having any issues getting into partner web. We are asking you to contact the Farm to School email box, which is the same email box that we have been communicating with you through at this point. So it's that same email address. We are asking you to scan your applications, including the support letters and the conflict of interest and all of this information by January 24th, which I believe is Tuesday of next week. Again, contact Farm to School if you have identify any issues, I'm going to guess particularly regarding the conflict of interest. So you might not know, like Maika stated earlier, whether you have a conflict of interest or your reviewers might have a conflict of interest until they actually get the application and they might say, oh, no, I worked here or I provided technical assistance. I cannot review this. It is critical that we know that right away because obviously we've already dispersed those applications, so we would have to do some shuffling. So we encourage you to please look at the set of applications that you have immediately or your reviewers and just maybe check up and make sure that none of those are going to be a conflict of interest. If they are, again, notify us immediately. We do have some tips here as far as how much time this may take. We're encouraging you to allocate at least 2 hours for the application for each individual one and, spread them out across the period. If you do 1 or 2 a day or 1 a day, I think you find that it goes fairly smoothly. One of the things I encourage folks is to try to get away in a quiet spot where you don't have a lot of interruptions to be fair to the applicant. And that way you give it your undivided attention, too. Again, we're just emphasizing here at the end that you complete your independent review prior to the team meeting. So this is a requirement. Everyone should already have completed it, scored it, turned it in through Partner Web, so that when you're getting ready to discuss, you are ready to have a good quality meeting and talk about, how everyone felt as a team regarding the specific application. All right, so key steps for successful review. I think this is my last slide. I just want to make sure. So, yeah, be reliable and be prompt. If these are more tips, I guess, for the reviewers, but it's good to kind of just remind everyone, even as the reviewer lead, that, everybody is prompt. Hopefully everybody's in the same time zone, and I think that's the way we've done it. So maybe sending out reminders, try to use the Outlook so that everybody's got it set up. And just be in communication with the reviewers throughout. I would encourage that just to make sure that everyone's doing okay, that they're not running into any issues, and that way it doesn't surprise everyone at the end. Again, when you're reviewing, be open to the opinions of others. We ask that if someone feels strongly about one maybe not being as strong as another proposal, then just be open to it. But you just make sure, again, that you're using and you're referring them back to the RFA and the criteria in the RFA when you guys are looking at any of these opinions you may have. Ultimately, you should be scoring according to the RFA and the criteria outlined in the RFA. And if at any point you have any questions, as Maika stated earlier, she'll be available and the grant officers will be available so that we can come in and if needed or answer any of your questions during the panel review. If you do decide to revise a score, usually this will happen during the team lead. You'll get back together and you'll have your meeting with everyone. And at that point, when you're discussing, you might find someone might ding them on maybe not having a piece of information that was required. And then you might find out that it was there, but it was all the way at the end, and you had to dig for it. Well, obviously, someone's going to have, that's an example for someone might change the score if that's what they dinged them on, at which point we want to make sure that you support the changes. So the note might just say, previously I didn't find this information, but after we met, someone, in the panel found it at the end, on page 30. So something to that effect. You just want to make sure that they're doing that. It kind of tells the story of what's going on with the scores and also keeps documentation of what happened during your meeting. All of the score stuff that you guys are doing is subject to review. So, when you're writing this, be constructive and make sure it's effective and clear and concise so that anyone reviewing it outside of the conversation would know either what you gave them a positive score on or maybe, again, might have dinged the grantee on. And I think that's it. Maika, it is now your turn. Let me know if I need to go back.
No, you're good. Thanks so much, Carla.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm giving everyone the thumbs up. You've made it. You have made it through this presentation. I said that there's a recap. It's 4:01, and I want to be respectful of people's time. Last two slides, essentially, it's a really great timeline for, what should I do now, and by when do I need to do it? So these last two slides really outline the things that you should be doing as a team lead, and it has dates. So this will keep you organized, so please take the time to take a look at this. We were receiving questions throughout the presentation, and we've answered them in the chat box. I also want to open up the floor really quick until 4:05 if there are any other burning questions that folks had or have and want to pose. I'm not seeing anything coming in, so I'm going to assume that this was clear and that you all have everything you need. Please feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. My contact information is there if you have any questions. And we're so excited for the review period to start next week. So thank you again for your time. Everybody have a great day. Take care. Bye.